Well, if you need to give it the chop suey, either cut it down or get rid of it entirely.
Wake up.
I'll be
Why'd you leave the kids
System of a Down with that. Yeah.
Oh, man, just keep it going. Keep the joke going. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with our host, DJ Mandolini.
Hey.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, everybody.
This is episode number 16. I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning here. I mentioned it in the first attempt, and now I forgot to mention it this time. So
no more
off
editing.
To a great
so
start. We're rolling. We're rolling. So, man, all right. So we played a little Rocket League before this, and we didn't have our best outing. But
then you got Sniper Elite 4.
Yeah, you finished that up this week, right, DJ?
I played a couple more missions, yeah, and I checked out the online play, which I was getting a little hooked on.
Oh, so. I didn't know that was a thing.
It is, and it kind of gives me, vibes of when I used to play SOCOM.
Oh, really?
Just the stealth elements there. I mean, like with SOCOM back in the day, it was like you die and then you have to wait for the round to end. Like you don't respawn. So
did you roll with SOCOM on PS2 with the modem?
Yes.
Oh,
I did.
That's dope.
Oh, yeah.
Same here. More my brother than me, but yeah.
That was probably like the first game I played online.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so, you do get to just respawn with Sniper Elite, so it's not as tense, I guess, knowing you can just come back. But, I mean, it's pretty stealthy. I, find myself just like waiting around like, someone's going to come by and I'm just going to line them up. Yeah, no, I had a good time with it, and I'm probably only halfway through the campaign. Like levels are like an hour-ish, maybe more. So,
jeez,
it's got some good meat on its bones.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess there are a bunch of secondary objectives that you can choose to complete or not. So. And I usually do that, so I can't really, don't really have a good idea of how long it would take if I just went for the primary objective. But
right,
I mean, I can't say no.
I do the secondary stuff too. Yeah, you can't not do that stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say, put a little time into that, and then the rest of my week, unfortunately, was dedicated to The Witcher. But this might be the last time I mention that because I did beat it.
Oh, shoot.
100%?
No. Come on,
I didn't think so, but you never know with you.
Only like 60 hours I put into it, Kevin.
Okay.
I actually have no idea, but it's got to be at least that.
Yeah, 60 doesn't seem too bad for something like The Witcher, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, This game surprised me, like, because I think I said before, I expected to go into this and really just be focused on the gameplay and be less concerned with, exploring the world and the lore and yada yada. And kind of the opposite happened because I think, combat was fine, but it was nothing that really got me super pumped. Maybe the most immersed in the gameplay I got was with Gwent.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm still so pissed about losing that tournament, though, because
lost cards.
Throughout the rest of the game, it was just squashing everyone. Just like, man, if I just beat that one guy, would have collected them all.
Ash Ketchum,
son of a gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you get farther and farther in the game, like it becomes very cutscene heavy, and surprisingly, I was just very roped in, and I got invested with the characters, who I think are written better than Naughty Dog writes their characters. Well, I guess it just seems like I don't know. It feels like nobody's really trying too hard, and that's the feeling I would get. And not just with Naughty Dog. A lot of times I get the sense like, oh, they're trying too hard to, force some personality onto this character. It's
so don't make me defend The Last of Us right now, because I will do that.
You can't. It's indefensible.
Jeez. He's trying to drag me into this battle.
It's the last of you.
Yeah, I guess it would be, huh?
Well, maybe I need to revisit that game. I'm leaning more towards DJ on that one than you, Randall. Although I wouldn't say I hate the game or anything.
On the record, it's better than Uncharted. I'm throwing it out there.
I have way more fun playing the Uncharted games personally. I never played much of 4, but
yeah.
Go fucking pick up a ladder in Last of Us. It's
so good.
Take it somewhere.
Y'all probably didn't like Resident Evil 4 either.
I'm not a big fan.
That sounds about right.
A little too slow and methodical for me. Even though I said earlier when we were talking that I was like, I'm sick of these breakneck pace games. I need to play something a little more methodical. So, but yeah, I don't know. Did you feel satisfied by like wrapping up the story or whatever? Or?
Yeah. Well, obviously, make different choices affect the outcome, and I'm not sure if I made the right choices. Like, I felt good about the choices I made when I made them, but I'm not sure if they maybe resulted in the best outcome. But I haven't looked into the other options, so maybe I got the best one. But I don't know. I found myself very invested. Like, Geralt was my boy. Like, he just seemed very just chill, not really trying to, I don't know, like, capture all the attention or anything. It's just
not trying to tune it up.
Yeah. So there is the DLC that I still have to go through because I have the complete edition, you guys.
Yeah.
It means I got everything.
I've got that too, but I haven't played the game yet. I'm kind of curious about that.
I did a little bit of the first DLC, and I think I just got to a point where it was just like, you know what, like, I was very invested in this main story, and like I just went through I don't know, I went through a lot of game to get there, and I think maybe I just need to take a break from it, and maybe I'll return to it in the future. I looked online, it's each like bit of DLC is supposed to take like 10 to 15 hours, so there's a good
how many are there?
There's 2.
Okay.
So there's still good amount of game left.
A lot of game left.
Yeah.
Are they on the same map, or are they like new maps, or?
So, I was starting to play one of them, and it sounded as though they were going to take me to like a new map, but that ended up not happening.
Oh, okay.
But it was same map, but like an area of the map that I, earlier in the game didn't feel like I had leveled up high enough to get to. Because to access those, they say recommended level is around the recommended level you need to beat the game.
Right.
So now that I'm more equipped, I think I can make my mark on the rest of the map.
That's cool.
Geralt
gives you an excuse to go back, even if you don't want to at this moment, which is always really cool. Yeah.
So, again, got to take a break for now. I've put a lot of time into this game, but seems like the podcast probably needs it because I haven't played anything new this week.
That's all right. It's nice to know that it's like, sometimes I hear that like a game is, it's 50 hours or 60 or 150 hours or however many hours, and it's a little daunting and it kind of puts me off. So it's nice to know that you legitimately got sucked in through the whole experience. You know?
And like I even got to a point where I wasn't listening to podcasts like I originally, speculated I would be. Yeah.
Yeah, for a game like that, that's how, even with, I love Breath of the Wild, and once I got the idea of like, okay, I get the vibe of this region of the map. I get the music, I get the tone. Unless I'm facing some kind of like story beat, I'm pretty much listening to a podcast. So.
And I'd say there are a decent amount of story beats. Like, so, I mean, of course, way more than Breath of the Wild. So, of course, the approach might be a little different, but yeah, pick it up.
Yeah, and it's coming to Switch. Somewhat soon-ish, I think this year.
It's definitely this year. They just, I think they just recently announced the date, and it was definitely in 2019.
Yeah, so you can pretty much get it anywhere.
Yeah, we're being topical.
There you go.
Well, you know, just while we're talking about AAA experiences, although I would say this is definitely it's an indie game, but it feels somewhat AAA in some regards at least. But at least maybe it just feels that way because I'm playing a 3D game again. I hardly ever play games that are 3D.
Yeah, that's true,
we talked a little bit about No Man's Sky last week. And I played just like kind of the first tutorial mission or whatever you want to call it, which I did not realize was a tutorial at first. So I think you guys are like relatively familiar with this game, right? Or the general conceit of just like the whole universe is procedurally generated, and you know, we talked about it a little bit last week. You're just kind of exploring the universe, and so anyways, you just kind of at the beginning of the game, I booted it up, and you're floating through, like, you're kind of zooming through the stars, and you're seeing all these little nodes and planets that you're zipping by that have like little percentages, and they have names of like it seems to be like, okay, this is like 16% explored on this planet or whatever, and once I think the game's just loading at this point, you know, and then you eventually load and you're kind of like land on a planet, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these warnings like warning, toxic, you know, radiation levels or whatever it is. It was some kind of toxicity, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm just like immediately getting all these notifications, and I'm trying to collect resources, and like just kind of like I'm taking damage right away. Like, what the hell is going on? And like I was like, well, you know, I was like, maybe I'm just got really unlucky and just spawned on like a really hostile planet, and maybe I just need to restart the game here.
So the game just plopped you on that planet. You didn't choose to go to that planet to start?
Correct.
Wow.
I just like that. That's where I started.
Jeez.
So I restart the game after I was pretty much dead, but I hadn't died yet. But I was like, I might as well just start over.
It's rough.
So I restart the game, and I'm just playing on like the normal mode, which I'll get into the modes in a sec. But I started the game again, and then at this time, after I do that loading, zipping through the stars, now I'm on like a super hot planet, and I'm just like, it's like heat resistance failing, you know.
Oh my God.
The system's fail. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so then I started like paying more attention to the pop-ups that are coming up, because it seemed like it was just like going nuts. It's like, collect this, you need this, you need this.
Yeah. And
I'm like, what? I don't understand. And like then I'm slowly figuring out, okay, this is actually the tutorial. They're trying to show you what you have to do when you're like fucked.
Right.
So like you have to like go collect this and repair your in this case it was the heat pack or whatever thing you need to repair to like have heat resistance, and in the other case it would have been to repair like your oxygen tank for the toxicity. But it's just showing you how to like repair stuff.
Okay.
Like I don't even think I got through this whole entire segment, but I'm like, now I'm like collecting the pieces to like fix my ship, and I think it's just kind of teaching me how to, you know, basically what to do when shit hits the fan, and start you off with a, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it was definitely, again, I know I mentioned like kind of being not put off by this game, but after the kind of backlash of the reception of this game, I kind of
rocky start. Yeah,
it fell off my radar a little bit, and I've been reluctant to get into it. And then this initial play right off the bat, I was like, I don't know, and I still, you know, I haven't played enough to give any kind of real impression, but I just definitely thought that was kind of interesting and funny, and not what I was expecting from this game. I mean, you're I was going around with like a laser and just kind of zapping, like essentially just mining resources, like zapping these rocks, and you can like scan and like, oh, I need sodium, or I need carbon for this, or I need this particular resource, and you have to craft all this stuff. So it was definitely had a lot more of that going on than I expected. But again, I mentioned the different modes, and I'm just playing in the normal mode, which is like at the very top of the list, which just sounded like the more just like, oh, it's, not a casual challenge, but just like a regular challenge.
Right.
And then there's like an extra hard mode, and then there's an extra hard mode with like permadeath, where it just says like the enemies are tougher and there's more of them, and there's more like just resource gathering is either more scarce, or you just have to like, maybe they just ramp up how much you need of stuff.
Right.
And then there's also just like a free play mode that's probably plays more like if you're just playing on like free play on Minecraft.
Right.
And you can just like build your bases and you just have access to anything and everything, I think.
That's cool.
So pretty cool that it seems like it offers some different ways to play. So if you are not looking for more, I guess I wasn't expecting like so much of like this kind of survival element. Although I do remember hearing that like you do kind of have to get going a little bit before I kind of have like a general flow of resources and I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
You're like Matt Damon in The Martian or something.
Yeah, kind of. And we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but and I know we talked on the podcast last week about VR. Yeah. And I will say, when I was playing this pretty late, I was playing it after work one night after I got home from a bartending shift, and I put on the headphones because I was like, I want to crank this up, or I want to I want to be immersed in this game.
Yeah. But
it's a little too late to crank it up. I live in an apartment building and I'm not trying to be rude.
Right.
So so I put the headphones on, and especially because like towards the end of the time that I was playing, I got this like upgrade to my visor that I could kind of zoom in and like really scan things a little more thoroughly. And you could like then start scanning things like to see what they actually are.
Oh,
and it seemed like it was getting, we're getting into Metroid Prime territory. But it was just, I don't know, like with the headphones on and like looking through the visor, like it really felt like I was getting sucked in. I don't know. It really made me want that VR experience. And
that's awesome.
And I know I mentioned to you guys somewhat recently, but yeah, I've been really enjoying playing games with headphones on. If I'll tweak the mixing a little bit. I find that a lot of video games have their sound effects a little too loud.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like I kind of want the music to be carrying, and then the sound effects to just kind of to cut through a little. But
Agreed.
But if they give me that option to tweak those two settings, I typically will dial that in on the headphones, and then even if I'm playing on the TV, I'll leave it at that. But
assuming a decent soundtrack,
yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, I don't really have anything to say one way or the other whether I'm gonna like this game. I don't know quite yet, but it's not quite what I expected. But it is pretty beautiful. I mean, there were just some really cool moments. There was one moment where like the sun or whatever star in this solar system was kind of setting or like kind of reflecting in the distance, and all of a sudden this like bigger ship just like kind of sailed over, and I was like, whoa, is that? And I was like, man, is that? And I know we talked last week, like you never run into anybody, and I was thinking like, oh, is there somebody in that thing? Is like, wow. I know I'm just maybe in the tutorial here, but what's going on? Like, that's I don't know. Awesome. It's just like you feel, I don't know. I've mentioned before, I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I kind of want to have my own little Star Trek fantasy adventure with this game. So I'm hoping. Sweet. I'm hoping there's something there. Again, this survival stuff is seeming a little bit harsher than I expected, but we'll see where it goes. I'll definitely update on this game in the future. I don't know if it'll be next week, but I'll definitely be playing more of this in the coming future.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that. And it seems like this game is open-ended enough where you're kind of, sounds like already you're kind of making your own story, which is really cool.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if there's going to be some kind of reset after I learn these mechanics or what's going on, but yeah, I'll fill you guys in when I find out.
That's sweet.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really know much, like, when this game was originally announced. So, I assumed, it's just a game without really any structure and people are just exploring. But I guess it's nice to hear that there is, a little more meat to it, like the survival aspect is pretty cool, so I would be curious if you keep playing.
Yeah, it was like intense. I had to I had to get carbon to like just to power the laser that I was using to collect the carbon. I mean, it was pretty harsh for just being on a normal setting,
right?
So yeah, so we'll see.
Does it seem like you're building to try to do something, or is it too soon to tell?
I would still say too soon to tell, yeah.
Okay.
But and right now, they have me building to fix my ship, which I'm assuming once I fix my ship, I will then leave this planet and then be kind of I kind of get the feeling that that's going to open up the game and to really see what it's all about, or at least let me explore what it has to offer. So,
right.
Yeah, I'll fill you guys in. I'll fill you in. So, yeah, I don't have any real transition, Randall, but I know we both picked up a newer game that just dropped on the Switch. Well, a newer / older game.
There's aspects of it that are newer at the very least.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we picked up the Vasara Collection. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but on the just released on the Nintendo Switch. It's a pair of vertical scrolling bullet hell shmups, and then a kind of new iteration on that. But you played a little more of that than I did this week, Randall. So why don't you take it away?
Sure. So yeah, the Vasara Collection is there's two main games that I think were released kind of in arcades a while back at this point.
I want to say it was early 2000s. I thought I saw the copyright was like 2001, and then it had 2019. I could be even misremembering that, but I thought that sounds right in my head.
That feels right too for where that gameplay is. Feels like Dreamcast era, even if it didn't come out on Dreamcast type of vibe to it. But yeah, it definitely has a lot of bullet hell elements. Both of these games, Vasara 1 and Vasara 2, they're hard. I'll throw that out there right at the beginning. I get my ass kicked by these games.
Yeah.
And then in doing research, they're like, actually, Vasara, that's not too bad of a game if you want to get into bullet hell. It's like, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I guess I'm bad at shmups, but I still like them, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're vertical.
I know the feeling.
Vertical shooters. They're both in like a vertical, like tate mode orientation too. Where in this game, this collection, both games in it support the tate mode with the flip grip on Nintendo Switch, which I tried out, and I actually found that I was doing best once I kind of had that going, because it made that screen real estate a little bit better utilized when you're playing in handheld that way for this orientation. So I found myself doing a little bit better once I did that, but still kind of getting my ass kicked. And because these are arcade games, it requires you to put in quote unquote credits. That's the way it's designed, is to eat your quarters. So you just pop credits in by hitting, I think it's like the left trigger, and then hitting start to employ that credit. But you will burn through credits very quickly, although it's not one hit death for your ship, which is nice.
Yeah, and I liked how you don't also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you take damage from touching ships, but you actually, like, there's like some push to them. Like you can kind of like push them out of the way, or they can push you, but like you don't take any damage from that. I don't think it's only from getting hit by bullets or projectiles.
I think you're right, especially in Vasara 2. I know that's the case. And I like the HD rumble implementation is for the most part pretty decent in this, where like if you're close to bullets, you'll kind of feel it a little bit. And I think it's the same with ships as well. Although, like when you die or you take a big hit, or you hit something with your Vasara like samurai slicing attack, the HD rumble goes nuts. And I'm like, well, that's too much.
The Joy-Cons sometimes go crazy.
I don't need it to be that high definition of a rumble. So lower definition rumble would be nice.
Yeah, 480p would be fine.
Yeah, 480p rumble, maybe even 240p rumble would be okay. 480i. But yeah, those games are pretty decent. It's like a samurai mech type of thing going on, which is pretty cool. There's a few retro games that kind of do the same thing. The Musha games come to mind, having kind of a similar combination of old school Japanese samurai plus mechs. So
that like good. Feudal Japan era.
Yeah, the feudal Japan backdrop is always cool. And there's different characters that you can select in both of these games that have different ships where they, either they hit harder or they're faster or a combination of both. So that's kind of cool. You can kind of style it to your gameplay style. If you want to be fast, you have that option. But you won't take out the bosses as fast.
That's always huge for me with any kind of game that you're just kind of replaying these same short levels over and over again. Like give me some variety, give me ways, even though I do sometimes tend to find a groove that like this is my setup, this is the way I play, but like let me experiment for a while, otherwise I don't find it doesn't keep my interest long enough typically.
Totally. Yeah. And kudos to this game too for the different characters for that purpose. And I like the gameplay element of using melee attacks to get rid of enemy bullets. That was pretty cool. That definitely saved my ass, because otherwise I'm like, at first I didn't realize you could do the melee attack because I'm apparently not good at reading comprehension. So I was just using the like auto fire for the most part, which is fine, but that doesn't get rid of enemy bullets. And then otherwise only the bombs do, but you only get a couple of bombs to start with. You can gain more, but it takes time, or you have to like pick them up while weaving through bullets, which is not easy. So the melee attack is super useful, although it takes a second to charge up, so you have to time it pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's not a separate button, right? You have to like charge the shot with the regular shoot button. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah, but one thing I like too, and I only played a handful of runs of this, so I might be misremembering, but it seemed like most of the ships, like when you get a power up, like it's not like they're not different power ups. They may be per ship, but you're just beefing up your weapon. Right. You're not getting like, oh shit, I had the laser and I liked that, and oh man, I accidentally picked up the machine gun. Right. Or whatever. It's you just keep beefing up until you hit the limit of points, but you can beef it up quite a few times, like 4 or 5, maybe even more. Yeah. Like it was like I had a pretty huge spread, and I could be wrong. There might be, maybe I just didn't get far enough. Maybe I didn't actually get to the second level, but it felt like the levels like just transitioned really smoothly. Yeah. Or they at least had these like little like cutscene intermissions. Well, not cutscenes, but like it felt like a level would end, I would beat some kind of boss, or maybe it was just a mini boss, but then it would like kind of just flow into a level without any kind of, change to anything. Like
for sure, it's not the really game like just keeps going. Levels. It's kind of like you play a boss battle, and then it'll show you the amount of like those scrolls or banners or whatever that you've killed the like higher level enemies. It gives you a scroll or banner for every one of those, so it kind of counts those up, and then it kind of just flows into the next part of the level or next stage. But it's very seamless that way. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It feels a little more cohesive than some of these games. Like I've bought quite a few of these, mostly shmups, but a few of these just any old like just remake of an arcade game.
Oh yeah.
And it can feel a little clunky even in the interface of like, how do you add credits?
Yeah.
Or what's the like, to be honest, it did take me a second to figure out which button was the coin button, but it is nice to like, I can just say like with these types of games, I usually just try to make a rule for myself. Like I'm going to limit myself to 5 credits and try to beat it with that many credits. And like, I can superimpose that, but if I want to see the whole game on any given day, I can just keep pumping credits in,
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's kind of like a way to set difficulty for yourself is like, if I was at an arcade or whatever and I was enjoying this game, I'd probably pop in like at a max maybe like $2 unless I'm really on a roll, right? And like $2 is, 50 cents a credit. You're talking 4 credits, maybe 5. So, that seems like that makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
And that's how I try to play these as well. The other thing that I didn't note is the graphics. I like the graphics, especially once you change the filter to sharp.
Oh, I got to look into that because I noticed that it felt a little blurry. I don't like when
to that for some reason.
Is it called? What's the filter called that it's
like smooth or sharp?
Yeah, get that smooth shit out of here. I'm so sick of it. It's like there in Eagle Island, to its credit, there's a ton of different settings and all different audio, this and that.
Yeah.
But you can put on like all these different filters that are like CRT, this and that. But you can do a smooth filter that it changes the game so much the way it looks like it's this really kind of not super detailed pixel style, but it's a nice relatively detailed pixel style. And then it turns it into almost looking like Spelunky, like the Xbox 360 version of Spelunky. Just by smoothing it out. And it's like, I just don't like how that looks. It always looks blurry to me, especially with these old retro games.
Yeah, the smooth filters are terrible. Yeah, and a lot of these arcade games have that option, and I don't know why they default to it. I mean, maybe people don't like sharp pixels for some reason. I love them. I want to see that detail. I want to see what the artist intended.
Yeah. Yeah, if that's the way I'm buying this game because it's a retro I want the retro experience.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to have it papered over.
Although people would argue that the retro experience is playing it on a shitty, rounded tube CRT that's 30 years old, and I'm just not that type of person. I want to see those chunky ass pixels.
Yeah.
Personally.
But I know there's one more element of this game on top of the two, I don't want to say remakes, but reissues or whatever of the first two games in the series. There's also the Vasara Timeless, which that's a reason this game caught my eye, because I was like, okay, I already have a ton of these shmups. At first I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this up. This looks cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually have 15 other shmups on my Switch, and do I really need another shoot 'em up?
How many of those have 4-player co-op support though?
Exactly. That's what caught my eye. So there's this new, and it's totally different graphical style, everything. It has more of kind of that Dreamcast era
3D.
It's 3D, but it definitely doesn't look that great.
It's low poly 3D. It's not an eye catcher.
Not by any means. No. But it does have you can pick a ton of different characters from I think both of the games. That again, you have all the different varying in it, and it does not split the screen, but it expands the screen into full widescreen.
Right.
And then you also have it adds in a dash mechanic that recharges every so often. So, because at first I was like, oh man, you move way too slow. There's no way you can get back and forth. But yeah, especially if I was just playing by myself, but pretty cool. It was for just to pick up and play. And again, this is another one of those games that I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that when these games are pre-purchase on sale for half off,
I know, right?
And it was only $5 for this collection. And even at the standard price of 10, again, very fair price to ask. But for $5, I was I'm getting two classic shooters that I've never heard of before.
Yep.
And then on top of that, this remake of or this reimagining or whatever of the series that I can boot up with friends when they're over. That sounds worth $5 to me. So.
Totally. I think that's a great price for value for that. And yeah, I didn't play this timeless mode as much, because it kind of tripped me up, where most of the time when you open up these shmups, there's a time attack mode or something to that effect. So I thought that's what this was, not realizing that, oh no, this is a fully fledged from the ground up mode that they made for this release, seemingly. And yeah, I didn't mind it, actually. It seemed a little, like you said, it was slower, but it also seemed a little bit more laid back, and I could survive for a hot second longer.
Yeah, there's a little more breathing room for sure.
Yeah, with all that screen real estate. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of a different look. I don't feel like this might be quite as good as the other two, but that's okay. It's kind of like a bonus, so I'll take it that way.
Yeah, for sure. It's the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, there you go.
The complete. But I guess real quick, I'll talk about another shooter or shoot 'em up that I've been playing lately, is called Q-Yo Blaster.
I want to hear about this game.
The letter Q and then dash and then Y-O Blaster. But this game caught my eye again. Just another kind of interesting art style. It's pixel art, but it has some elements of it have almost a little bit of a Cuphead-y vibe, the animations of there would be these hands moving around, moving their fingers really fluidly and shooting bullets out of their fingertips. But yeah, it just had kind of a weird, crazy style, and this game is very crazy. And there's kind of a pretty long opening cutscene that's just just still frames and dialogue. And it doesn't make much sense. I kind of breezed through it, but even the stuff I read, I was just like, "What the hell are they even talking about?" I don't get it. But it's interesting. There's I played a little bit more today just to play it, just so I could have a little bit more to add. And I actually got pretty far. I got to the last stage.
Oh, nice.
But only because it gives you 7 or 8 continues, at least on the standard difficulty.
Okay.
But it looks like there's other modes that you can unlock, which appear to be more difficult, and then other more tough difficulties that you can unlock as well. But yeah, I don't know. There's at first it looks like there's only 3 different characters you can pick from, and then once you select one of those, they seem to be factions, and then there's 5 different characters within each of those.
Okay.
So there's 15 different characters to pick from.
Damn.
And one of the things I really appreciate is this is one of those games that has just bright neon pink or purple ball
Yeah.
That's just like, this is your hitbox. Like, it doesn't matter what your character looks like. It doesn't matter anything else. Like, that is the part that as long as that doesn't touch anything, you're safe.
Okay.
So I always appreciate when games like have some kind of like, I know we've briefly talked about Steriden before on the podcast, and we'll talk about it more at some point because we definitely need to highlight that game. And I just need to play it again. But like all the ships have like a little green like spot on it, and that's like that is your hitbox in that game. Like all the designs are different, but they all have that one thing in common, and that's like what that's what can't take damage.
Right.
Which I really like. I really appreciate that when there's when the screen is just filled with bullets, you want
to know how you can weave. Like
exactly
how much room for error do I have here?
Exactly. And one of the things I will say is like the backgrounds are a little like they're also kind of pixel art, but they look kind of different than the pixel art of the enemies and and your character. Like they look like almost they're out of like old like 90s computer adventure games or something. They look sort of different. I don't know. They look a little, it doesn't look like bad or anything necessarily, but it doesn't look like as much care went into that.
Right.
As the like enemy designs and stuff like that. But it does have some cool mechanics, like you're shooting, and this is another game where like I was holding down the auto fire, and with your regular gun, that all that will do is like your bullets will kind of spread for like a wider spread as you hold it down longer. Whereas if you were to just keep tapping it, it'll stay a pretty steady, direct stream of bullets.
Yeah.
And then as you get different power ups, like homing missiles, like if you keep tapping, it'll shoot like a more powerful, like kind of like a bigger bomb instead of like the faster paced missiles.
Right.
And every there's a bunch of different weapons you can get. They don't seem to level up or power up. You just like pick up, I got the H for the homing missiles and I have them now.
Did it seem like there was different weapons for different characters, or was it just kind of like you get the homing missile no matter what? There's
a ton of different, on top of the 15 or more different characters, you also then pick a different weapon at the beginning.
Damn.
That you can, some characters only have like 2 to pick from, some have like 5. So,
wow.
With tons of different stats, like they all same thing with like kind of like we mentioned in Vasara, different speeds, different this. I only tried like 3 of the characters.
Yeah,
I was playing as Mr. Cheeks, which is a hamster.
Okay.
When I got to the final level here.
All right.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. It has like every level, like right when you start it, like chugs for a quick second, but then after that, it's like pretty smooth. Don't really have any issue with slowdown. The bullets are like really they go out of their way to make them really flashy and like neon rainbow.
Yeah.
But they're a little like light colored or bright or something. They do on some of the levels. I have a little bit of a hard time seeing them. But you have like these, you collect on top of the different weapons and that you get like beyond your standard weapon that you start with, Yeah. And you get these pulses that you can have up to 3. You have like a little like battery meter, and you get a pulse that you can use to clear the any bullets that are on the screen, turn them into gems that you collect that you also can collect as you kill enemies.
Okay.
And that powers up like this meter at the bottom that also is tiered into like 3 tiers. That you can then use like
we didn't mention that in Vasara, but it's the same idea there too.
Yeah, and you get like a bomb like charge attack that again just has like 3 tiers of how powerful that charge attack will be, and that will wipe the bullets or like block any bullets that with that blast, as well as the pulses will turn all the bullets. So some of these bosses, if you time it perfect, like you can turn a situation where they're filling the screen with bullets like crazy.
Yeah.
You turn it into a power up and you can unleash like 2 or 3 of those huge blasts and you're making some huge headway.
That's sweet.
One of the things I will say is some of these bosses take quite a long time to take down, and this game does offer 2 players. So it does make me wonder if maybe, and Vasara offers that as well. 2 players on 1 and 2, and then 4 players on that mode. I don't know if we mentioned that the first.
I don't think we did, but
also co-op. But yeah. That's always a huge plus on these types of games for me.
Big time.
But again, this is a horizontal scrolling shooter, so this one utilizes the whole real estate of the screen space. And I think we might mentioned this before on the podcast, but I know, or you might have mentioned this before, DJ, but you've definitely mentioned it to me before, but I definitely prefer the horizontal scrolling to the vertical scrolling. Yeah. I don't know why, but I just do for whatever reason.
Yeah, I guess I kind of do too. Yeah.
I think for more, I think the main reason, I'm just thinking of this right now, but I feel like the worlds in those games are typically more immersive. Like they're just typically cooler designs, like out of the more interesting designs. There's like more going on in the background, where like the top down stuff is like a little less. You're just looking at like the roofs of buildings or the tops of trees.
That's true. Yeah, it's
or
a
water. Where
thing.
like, I don't know if you're. Yeah. Although I do think it's pretty cool that a lot of those top down games like incorporate enemies that are on the ground and enemies that are in the sky. So there's pros and cons to both. I definitely like both styles, but I do tend to lean towards these. So I haven't played much, but also as you beat each level, there's like I think there were 7 or 8 stages. And so if there's 8 stages, I think there's 7 power-ups. So every time you beat a level, you pick one of these 7 power-ups that either like you increase like so your bullets when you hold down the auto fire won't spread as far out, like it'll stay more focused still, or you increase your speed, and these are one-time purchases, so it's like, or you can get 1 extra life. So I saved that for last, like, okay, last level, I have last thing to get 1 up. So but it or the power-ups will last longer on the screen, like after you kill an enemy, and like a pulse power-up or a bomb, or I guess you don't collect bombs in this game, but like the homing missiles or whatever, like I mentioned, there's all kinds of different stuff, lasers and like a spread shot. I forget what they're all called, but it's pretty cool. It's a little rough around the edges in some regards, but I think this game's normally $10. I grabbed it for a few bucks off on sale, but again, for $10 with 15 characters and 2 players, and if you're into these kinds of games, I can't say that I don't recommend it. I haven't played it enough really to give it a wholehearted, backing,
I almost bought this anyway, though, because it looks like a cute-em-up, and I am a fan of cute-em-ups. Air Zonk and Star Parodier and Parodius, all of the games of kind of that era that kind of have weird, zany bullshit. Typically Japanese developed games, where it's not taking itself too seriously, and there's a lot of color and there's a lot of random, and just kind of keeps you entertained through doing a lot of the repetitive shmup actions as you're fighting new weird crazy bosses and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I will say that the enemy designs could use a little more variety and stuff like that, but it's there's enough there. It's definitely a nice little package.
Yeah. Nice. I'm going to check it out.
Nice. Well, once again, I got no real transition here, Randall, but I know you and I believe you and Tina have been revisiting some ToeJam and Earl, which ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that you and I tried playing like shortly after it came out. We played a little online and had a little bit of a laggy experience, and then some jerks that joined us. And within like 5 seconds, we were already like, okay, we had some troubles connecting and getting the game to work, and a little bit of lag. And then we're like, all right, this just puts the nail in the coffin. Yeah. But I know you mentioned that they've done some updates and just, we hadn't spent much time with the game at that point. So any new thoughts, or I guess we haven't talked about it on the podcast. So any thoughts in general?
I do have thoughts in general. So ToeJam and Earl, was Back in the Groove. So this is it basically took the original ToeJam and Earl that was released in '91 on Genesis. It was one of the big formative games of the Sega Genesis. They pushed it hard, had a lot of 90s rappertude to it in a fun alien way that your mom wouldn't mind buying it for you because it's cartoony. But it had great music, laid back, co-op focused. One of the earliest roguelike element type of games released on consoles, really, in the way that presents were completely randomized. You can play a completely random level generated campaign to complete it, which is pretty cool, pretty novel for 1991 on
that was news to me when we talked about that before, when this game came out and then we were talking about the original. I just had never realized that before. So that's pretty interesting.
And Tina and I just have a ton of history with that first Genesis game. We played it a lot, especially when we were first dating, but even to this day we pop it on from time to time just to let's see if we can beat this. Let's see if we can get all 10 ship pieces that are scattered throughout this world, playing on random, so we'd never know what the levels are going to be, so you can't memorize anything. Let's see how far we can get, because by no means are you guaranteed success. I think we've only seen the end maybe 2 or 3 times out of quite a few attempts. So it gets pretty damn hard. But that's the original game. This is the new game that they kickstarted. They launched a Kickstarter in 2015, which I backed because, like I said, I was just a huge fan. I put some pretty decent money in, just knowing the pedigree that this group had. They were bringing back like the main guy that had developed and directed ToeJam Earl back in the day. He was back for this project. They had kind of some fits and starts throughout that process, but it ended up releasing in 2019 on like all platforms, which is sweet. Ended up getting it on Switch because I just wanted to have that availability to take it on the go, whatever else, because again, at its core is it's kind of like a laid back co-op game, right? And that's where I want my co-op stuff is on Switch. There's just so many good ones there. But it follows a lot of the same ideas where you are alien. You can pick from ToeJam or Earl, and they are different types of aliens. One is kind of like slow with more health, and one is a little bit faster with less health, but they've got other attributes now, like their luck when they pick up presents, if it's going to be a good present or not for something they can use, or what other elements are there? There's a bunch of other ones in there too. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's like at least 6 or 7 different stats, which you upgrade by kind of exploring the world. You get more experience, which allows you to get upgraded levels, and then you're a little bit faster or a little bit beefier to continue on your journey. Like strength of attack, things like that. They've got more characters than they did the first time around. There's 9 total characters you can unlock that all kind of have different attributes and different styles. There's voice acting in the game now, which obviously there wasn't back in the Genesis. So, and I'm not like the biggest fan of that necessarily for a lot of this type of 2D game, but it works. It's fine. It's not intrusive by any means. And a lot of the quips from like the humans, which are generally your enemies, are pretty funny, at least at first.
Yeah, I remember I could probably see that getting grating if you're playing it over and over again, but I do remember of some of them being, what was the one guy that would like chase you, sign my game.
I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah, that was definitely funny. But yeah, if you're on your 50th run, you're just like, I'm going to fucking kill you, dude. So
yeah, you get used to it. It's fine. Even then you're like, yeah, you're annoying, but that's your role.
Yeah, and sometimes that, they're antagonizing you a little bit. Exactly. That's what the enemy is supposed to do. So
yeah. Another update of this game versus that original is the art style is pretty cool. I like it quite a bit. It's kind of got like a Nickelodeon look to it. I would say kind of like a 90s Nickelodeon, like almost like a Rocko's Modern Life type of style to it, which is pretty cool. Kind of just jumps off in screenshots, all the color and vibrancy to it, which definitely fits the zone. The soundtrack is pretty phenomenal, I think. I really like the soundtrack of this game, but I really like the soundtrack of the original Genesis game as well. And I didn't realize until just recently that like the the main musician, composer for the first game was very heavily inspired by Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. It sounds like almost identical, actually.
I can't say that I'm familiar. I mean, I know Herbie Hancock, but
it's a badass.
I can't say I'm familiar.
It's a badass like jazz fusion album.
Okay.
It's really good, actually. It's very funky, just like ToeJam Earl is.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm like psyched that I own this, but boy, you just ripped this off. Very heavily inspired, but he admitted to that, like, as well. But
you talking about the soundtrack for this new game or for the original?
I mean, kind of both.
Yeah,
definitely the original, but like then they obviously took those tunes that people are very fond of and remixed them for this new game. So
right,
it's both. But that being said, still it's an awesome soundtrack. There's like 30 different songs, like those great remixes. So that never gets old, and that definitely is a good driver forward to kind of keep you going. A lot more presence than before. So like you never know what you're going to open. Everything's kind of a question mark until you start discovering what presents are by either opening them or paying other friendly non-playable characters to reveal what presents are before you open them. Because sometimes you get something like a total bummer, which will kill you, or bees, or like a lightning strike, or a total randomizer where even if you had like half of the presents opened and you knew what they were, once that randomizer hits, it just randomized everything again, and you don't know what present corresponds to what item again.
And this is like if I recall, like each present, like these are like wrapped,
Yes.
birthday presents or whatever, and like so there'll be like a pink and yellow one that if you before you get this randomizer, like once you realize, okay, this is gonna buff my strength, it'll always be that.
Yes.
Until something happens that changes that, but
Right.
not just for that run. Then next time you play, it'll be something totally different. Yeah,
Totally. And it's not like you have to memorize what they look like necessarily, because it'll still show you when you open up your present menu that, oh yeah, it's that same pink and yellow one, and it's extra life, or it's tomatoes that you can throw at enemies or whatever. So yeah, you'll kind of keep that going until you accidentally hit a randomizer, and then you're kind of screwed again. You're back to square one. And this game gets hard, just like the first game. As you ramp up, there's the conditions of the level make it where you're finding yourself squeezed in small areas with a lot of enemies at the same time, and a lot of times it's not easy to outrun them unless you're jumping off into like a part of the land that's like a smaller area that you can't be followed as easily or something. It's easy to fall off of the level and end up on the lower level because you're going through it's like a total of 25 levels to grab these 10 ship pieces. So not every level is going to have what you need, where then you're just like getting to the end of the level, deciding whether or not you want to collect presents, and then getting into an elevator so you can go up to the next level and keep your progress going. So it's kind of, there's not a lot of other games like this, even to this day. So it's a little bit of a complex thing to describe, but still like a lot of roguelike elements, which keeps Tina and I coming back. They did patch it. There's still some issues, at least with the Switch version, as far as some kind of chugginess and some lag every so often. Especially when stuff gets hectic, which is a little disappointing. And the loading times are still kind of heavy between levels, which I kind of get, because you're, randomizing the levels. You're having to build them from scratch, or like the game is in the background. But I don't know. It's sometimes you're waiting 15 seconds for that next level to show up, which is kind of a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that being said, I'm still enjoying it. Still glad I own it. I'll always be a ToeJam fan. So yeah, more to come on that one.
All right. Well, not that it's like the same exact illustration or animation style, although in this case, a lot of times I would say illustration is probably a more applicable term.
Yeah.
But Randall and I have both somewhat serendipitously, we had just kind of mentioned this game in passing, but we both booted up Battle Chef Brigade Deluxe on the Switch as well. But I think, again, this is another game that's available on multiple platforms. But this is like a hack and slash beat 'em up / puzzler, like match 3 or match 2 or whatever, bunch of different modifiers, but essentially match 3 puzzler at heart that has some sort of more similar mechanics to like Tetris Attack or Pokemon Puzzle League, like we talked about, like a similar mechanic to like moving the pieces around. Although in this case, we'll get into that in a second, but yeah, this game definitely is just like, has kind of like an anime cartoon, again, kind of like a 90s cartoon visual style. But definitely a very like specific choice to like use, for the most part, like still frames of illustrations as opposed to like moving characters. Like obviously your character has like running animations when you're playing and stuff, but like, when you're doing like the cutscenes, it's kind of just dialogue, like fully voiced voiceover dialogue, but which is actually pretty good.
It is.
I would say
the voiceover
really
work
impressive.
is really good.
I do find myself skipping through a little bit of it, just in the sense like I'm reading it and just moving it along to move the pace, because there is a lot of it. Especially at the beginning. I'll say it did take me like quite a bit of just to get this game moving. Probably an hour and a half to like, okay, I'm in the groove of like the loop of the gameplay now. Which was a little bit of a bummer, at least for me. I just want to boot up a game. I'm excited to play it. I just want it to start. I want to be playing the game, and like it's like, oh, this isn't quite what I'm envisioning, but maybe it's there. And if I put in enough time, but what I've played so far, I've probably played about 2.5, 3 hours, and there's honestly a lot of depth to both sides of the game, which I'm pretty impressed specifically, or impressed on both fronts. But I meant to say specifically. Kind of surprised or shocked on the beat 'em up front, because like specifically like the animations of like the enemies, when you see like trailers and cutscenes and stuff, everything looks kind of stiff and sort of like clunky. Like it doesn't look as fluid as it feels. Like it really feels great to play.
It does.
And you have a ton of different attack options. Like you can throw knives and do like throw out like a tornado whirlwind attack and like do like a downward dash or, from the air, or do like a slide attack, or there's all kinds of different maneuverability and upgrades and different like perks and buffs you can equip. And,
oh yeah, the beat 'em up stuff reminded me a lot of like Guardian Heroes or things like that, where there's some serious complexity there for what beat 'em ups typically are, for what you can accomplish in that part of the game, and that's only part of the game.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that they're incorporating these two things hand in hand.
Yes.
It's not like you're doing one and then it's not like you do a beat 'em up level and then you do a puzzle and then it's like you're doing these challenges that you're essentially, it's like you're in this like Iron Chef competition,
right? That
you'll get up to 3 judges for any battle, and you're battling against another chef one-on-one. Maybe it'll evolve beyond that in the future, but it seems like it's just going to be one-on-one. And then each judge will have like a specific ingredient or like the battle will have a specific ingredient that you have to use, which is tied to a specific enemy that you have to. So you're killing the enemies in the beat 'em up section, collecting ingredients from them,
right? Running
back to the kitchen, throwing them either in your pantry or into the pots that you have, and you have 3 pots on the stove. And all these enemies then have different like. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I start going on one track of the game and go, into the next aspect of it. So,
but it's all intertwined, like you say. Like,
yeah. So and really, really well done. So I guess so. Yeah, you get at the beginning of each battle, the judge or the host of the ceremony or whatever will give you like, these are the ingredients you have to use, and these are the judges. Like, these are their taste profiles that they look for, which are just tied to like the colors of the gems or the bubbles that you're matching, which are, I think, just red, green, and blue. Is that right? And then there's like some different like bones and
there's some
other like blockers and stuff like that can trip you up. But but you can even like so you're like, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I think
as far as we've gone anyway.
Yeah, and the little bit we've played so far, I'm sure it will evolve beyond that, but. You're essentially, so you run out into the field or into the little battle arena. You go kill some enemies. You collect the ingredients. Particularly, you got to go try to kill that one enemy that they highlight that they want the ingredients from.
Right.
But you can get stuff from anything else. But then each one of those ingredients you collect, which you can only fit a limited amount in your satchel.
Right.
And you get like about a 5-minute timer on these battles, at least the ones we've done so far.
And that's what's really pushing the pace, is like you have to run out, go hunt for ingredients. You only have like 6 like ingredient slots basically in your satchel. So then you're like running back to the kitchen so you can drop that stuff off, so your satchel's free to run back out while you're still under that 5-minute countdown to like go gather those ingredients to come back and still have time to cook.
Yeah, and you're
wild.
Wondering like, should I start cooking some of this stuff? Because like, so you have to. So each of those ingredients has like everything's tied to like essentially like up to 4 different orbs, I guess we'll call them, and they'll be laid out however. So let's say you pick up an ingredient from this like wildebeest looking animal.
Yeah,
you get like a red item that will be, or like red gems or red orbs that will be like stacked in like a. It's a 4x4 grid.
Yep.
That you're stirring the ingredients, which is cool. So you're essentially, just like in Puzzle League, you're moving a cursor around, but this time you're highlighting 4 orbs at a time instead of 2.
Right.
And then you hit either the left trigger or the right trigger, and that will spin those items counterclockwise or clockwise, those 4 orbs. And then you're trying to either match 3 if you just have a regular pan, but you can have a pan that you buy that is a blue pan or a water pan.
Right.
That now when you cook ingredients that are blue, the blue orbs only need 2 to be combined, and they keep combining. So you like to multiple tiers, like you have the regular base like blue orbs, and then once you get a chain or a combo, they level up to they start glowing, and then if you match 2 of those glowing ones, they glow even more, and then you match 2 more, and they can get like all the way up to like a elemental. That like I think it just turns into like one of those.
It feels so good too when it's like happening that way, because you don't even have to stir; you just have to start the fire, the cooking.
Yeah, as long as the flame's going, it'll just keep combining.
Yeah, and it's sweet.
Yeah, and you have 3 pans that you can be cooking at once, and you're like throwing dishes. You can like combine them together, but you have to make sure you have the room to fit them in that very tight grid. You know, that 4x4 grid. You really do have to manage like what you're putting in each pan, and and you got to serve the dish on time. You get penalized if you don't serve it on time.
Definitely didn't make it on time one time too.
Yep, me too. and you get penalized if you if you don't have the proper ingredient, highlighted or the proper flavor profile. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. It's
interesting.
It's way more depth than I thought, and even like we mentioned, it's a little bit much to. I find myself moving a little bit quicker through it once I know what's going on. But like the story beats of it are really really well done. Like the humor is it just has like a nice, well-crafted, sensitive touch to it. It does. It's a really well-done game. I really am. I knew I was gonna enjoy it, I think, or at least I thought I would like it. But I'm really pumped to play more of this game. Yeah, Tina and I have a saying of certain things that what we call "take it nice," and this game takes it nice. It's just like so chill. It's so like laid back. Everything's but it's like, intense though. But it's super intense. It can be intense in those moments, but then otherwise, like the atmosphere of the game is so like just serene. Like when you're just talking to people and like these beautiful like watercolor stenciled backgrounds and stuff. They just put so much time and love into this. You can tell. Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love without question. Yeah. And it kind of reminds, like, the vibe of it reminds me of, like, some DS games and things like that I've played in the past. And I'm like, I was thinking the same thing, like, not quite, like even, like, a little bit of, like, Professor Layton. Like, totally different gameplay, but, yeah, it's got that just, like, that chill vibe. Yep. And, like, in the town or in the little, like, inn that you stay in, like, there's also, like, on top of, like, the actual battles and challenges that you do, you can just, like, work a shift in the restaurant to make some extra money and, like, those are just, like, challenges about like purely about speed or like a puzzle that they want you to do, like like you have to specifically do this puzzle challenge, or there's like then one that's like specifically dedicated to just battling techniques. So there's like it's kind of like training you techniques, and also but I do find that like the mechanics, like took me a little while to get in the groove of like remembering what all the buttons are, because like you're hitting X to go into the pantry, and then Y to start cooking, and then B to go back, A to pick stuff up, triggers, A to move stuff around. You're like, it takes a little bit of like it takes a while, and still, to be honest, don't even fully have it as the game, the controls becoming second nature. It feels nice, the controls feel intuitive, but it's still, there's a lot of buttons. So yeah, and especially when you are under the gun with that 5-minute timer. With something, then you start sweating it a little bit. Yeah, and something about like rotating the orbs in a counterclockwise or clockwise fashion just feels it's always rotates the way I don't expect it to for whatever reason. Yeah, that throws me off too. I accidentally hit A because that's what happens in Puzzle League or other games, and like, no, I'm back out of a menu again. I need to rotate with the triggers. But that'll come with time. It already was. I was like doing that less as time went on. Yeah, so it's awesome. I really like this game. I'm going to see this game all the way through. Like, I'm putting that down right now. Okay, I'm going to definitely play some more. And one thing we didn't mention, and that I have not played personally, I don't know if you and Tina did, but there is a 2-player battle mode. I know. Yeah, we haven't tried it out yet, but I think it's only local. It's not online, but that is, I could see this like if we got good at this game, or like we're living across the country, but I mean that would be really awesome. That could get intense playing with somebody who knows what they're doing. Oh yeah, I'm really excited to potentially try that at some point. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, and they have daily challenges too with like online leaderboards. Oh, I didn't even see that. That's interesting. It's right there in the main menu. Man, so okay, cool to know that there's like, even though this kind of story heavy narrative experience on the campaign end, that there's like, hey, this game extends its life if you're just into the mechanics of it. Yep. So pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan. The production values are like top tier despite this being an indie game. So yeah, definitely recommend it so far. Same. More to come. Same here. And speaking of more to come, We have our game of the month for the month of August, which is Into the Breach, which I've also been sinking a ton of time into this week, which is part of why we're a little lighter than usual, although we still talked about quite a few games this week. But I've been playing a ton of that. Have you two started it up just yet?
No.
That's okay. You don't have to feel bad.
Unfortunately, I'm in the same boat there.
That's okay, but just get on it. Just get to it. But we'll talk about it. I think that'll be the next episode, right?
I think we got one more, don't we?
That's next episode, man. Into the Breach is next episode.
You got a week, Rand.
So you better count your blessings.
Here we go.
Well, we could maybe push the recording date back a day or two or something, but we'll play it by ear and see how we go when the week gets closer. But you can get into it quick. I got into it super fast.
I want to get into that, so that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
I assume Rocket League would maybe be the only other thing I would play. So
yeah,
going to dedicate a lot of time to this.
Same.
That'll be Rocket League would be something nice to pair it with, because you might want to turn your brain off for a few when you're playing this. So but yeah, we'll get into that. That'll I guess be the episode for next week. So hopefully John will be back for that episode. He did mention he was maybe going to be going out of town, but hopefully we can figure out a way to bring him back on.
I need to finalize my NBA conversation with him.
I was just gonna say, but he's been itching to get back on regardless, because he's been telling me he's just been playing so many games. So if we're not able to get him next week, we'll bring him back soon. But tune in next week if you want to hear us talk a little about Into the Breach. Not that it hasn't been talked to death already. So we'll leave it there this week, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening. This has been Pursuing Pixels. You can find us on the internet pretty much just by searching Pursuing Pixels anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And, we'll catch you next week.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Sweet. Good night. But he's got so much charisma, Kevin.
He is.
Oh, my fucking God.
I like Nathan. He's all right.
I don't think Naughty Dog can write characters well. I don't know.
They're believable, I guess. They're annoying, but they're believable.
Yeah, I'm all right with it though. It reminds me of stuff like Firefly. That's where they took that inspiration from, and yeah, I like Firefly for what it is.
Interesting. So. I wasn't a huge fan, but I've only seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll re-explore being a huge fan of the Uncharted cutscenes.
There's some corniness there, but it's channeling the same energy. That's
okay.
Sure.
That's interesting, because now that you say that, I never would have paired those two together. But yeah, now that you say that, I can definitely see the comparison.
Oh yeah, they based Nathan Drake off Nathan Fillion, hence why Nathan Fillion ended up being in that indie little 15-minute thing they did around an Uncharted movie concept.
Huh. I don't know if I know about that.
Oh, yeah. Check it out. It's actually worth watching. It's only like 10, 15 minutes. It's on YouTube, or at least it was as of 6 to 12 months ago.
Okay. If I remember, I'll put it in the show notes here.
There you go.